Oilerslive podcast. Oilerslive podcast. Oilerslive podcast. Oilerslive podcast. Oilerslive podcast. Oilerslive podcast.
Now, get ready to talk hockey. Streaming from the Oilers Live Studio. Subscribe or follow today.
Hey, and welcome to Oilers Live podcast. We've got the post-game San Jose game episode coming live. It's a little bit late. It's 11:45 Mountain, but we're going to be here tonight for who knows how long. I've got two guests tonight. I've got Kayle and Kelly from Beer League Heroes. First, let's introduce Kayle because he's new to the show, and he reached out and wanted to be on. As I've always said, this is a podcast about Oilers fans. Kayle seems like a pretty decent guy. So, Kayle, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, happy to have you. And Kelly, you're still on mute, so you're going to have to take yourself on mute first. There you go. Kelly, welcome to the show.
Sorry, I was just watching a big cock on the TV.
I guess this one's getting an explicit rating again.
It's a rooster. What are you talking about?
Oh,
Jeez,
hey.
Where's your mind?
Nice. No cock puns by Gene tonight, I noticed.
I was really hoping he'd drop one. I really was.
All right, guys. So we are doing this live. For those of you that care to listen just to the radio, you can go to the Oilers.live website. There's a radio button, I guess, on the very top, and there's a pop-out there. You can listen to just the audio if you want. If you are listening on YouTube or Facebook or wherever, probably the best place to go is, and the most interactive, is usually Twitter. You can go onto my Twitter profile and click on the video, which I've pinned to the top, and that'll take you to the Periscope. There's a little bit of a comment area and chat area there where you can either tell me what you really feel. Nick the Gamer says audio's unbalanced. Nick, tell me who's too loud and who's too soft, because I can fix that in a second. I'm usually the one that's too soft, so let me turn that up and see how that is. All right. So first things first, Kayle, new to the show. Let me know what were your thoughts on the game?
Well, to begin, I thought we came up pretty hard in the first 10 minutes. We looked to kind of hang in there. Koskinen kept us in with some good saves, which is minus that first goal in the early period. Everyone was kind of probably, oh, here we go again. But he settled in pretty nicely. And then for the last 10 minutes of that period, San Jose really took over, and it kind of looked like we were an AHL team against an NHL team. And then going into the second, about 8 minutes into the second, I really noticed Hitchcock's style of game starting to actually influence the Oilers. That forecheck, the heavy play, all the hits, things that he's known for. And I didn't think it really stifled the offense, as a lot of people were kind of worried about, like Hitchcock's defensive only. People kind of take the misconception that his defensive style play means you play the trap. If you've paid attention to Hitchcock, you've seen a lot of Hitchcock, for a lot of Oilers fans would have in the early Dallas years, that it's a cycle game. He wants offensive zone time. He wants to wear down that team. And I started really notice that in the second. I think it was a bit of a balanced second. In the third, that was all Oilers. The couple saves that Koskinen made, he made those saves. We got it tied up. We bear it down and then go to overtime. McDavid and Dry is going to win you that 9 times out of 10.
Could not agree more on that. Kelly, your thoughts on the game? Kelly, by the way, if there's a chance you can turn your mic down just a touch. My understanding is you're too loud. Obviously, somebody that knows you personally. All right, what's your thoughts on that, Kelly?
I watched the third period only because I was watching the Bakersfield game at the same time. So I paid a little bit more attention to Puljujarvi and the boys down in the minors. But from what I've seen, I've seen a lot more energy tonight, which could be a bump from getting the new coach. I've seen aggressive forechecking. I was a little shocked to see Lucic on a line with Brodzak and Kazian at first, until I gave it some time there to see how they were being deployed, and then I realized they were the de facto third line. But they had lots of energy. They were hitting everything that moved, which was kind of fun. Overall, I liked what I saw. I think that I need a good 5 games or so to get a nice read on how Hitchcock is going to run this team, and then go back and see comparables between like his teams in Columbus or his second run in Dallas and whatnot.
Yeah, absolutely. The one thing, guys, and Kayle, you watched the whole game, so you were saying, and I listened to Hitchcock at the end of the game tonight, and I thought it was interesting what he said. And he's of course now the oldest coach in the league, but he said there were a couple guys whose names he didn't quite know yet, and during the first period. He was yelling out to guys, and he was getting their names wrong. He was calling them all sorts of different names, and then wondering why they weren't hitting the ice. So he said it was a little bit, if you notice some choppiness, it looked like maybe that was the cause, and it took him, he said, a half period to kind of get to know or give nicknames to the guys and understand who needed to be out there. Of course, part of that makes me wonder, can he not just read the name on the back of his shirt?
He's an old guy. Maybe his eyes aren't as good as you'd hope across the ice like that. You can see the puck, but you can't see the jersey.
That's right, yeah. No, you know what, guys? We're going to talk a lot about Koskinen tonight. Or not Koskinen, although we'll talk about him, but we'll talk a lot about Hitch tonight. Kelly, quickly before we do that, for those that are listening live, what was the Bakersfield game about? How was that? I noticed you. The only tweet I actually saw you had something about Yamamoto tonight. How'd the guys look tonight?
They looked a little bit slower tonight. Not as I think Colorado clogged up the lanes a lot more this evening than they did in the previous game. They went down 3-0 early, and they pulled Starrett, and then in the second period they came back and tied it up. But Colorado scored another goal late in the period, and then the third it was just a kind of a scramble to try and get a goal on Colorado, and they couldn't quite make it, but Gambardella looked good. He had a couple of goals.
Nice.
Puljujarvi looked amazing. Puljujarvi is so much better than the AHL level. He's got so much confidence down there, and he's playing a real power forward game down there too. It's almost shocking compared to what we've seen him play in Edmonton. So, but Yamamoto looks like he fits in fine there, and Benson looks like he's fitting in fine there. So I think those are two players that could probably spend the season down there, to be honest. But I think Puljujärvi is just too good for that league. So maybe he comes up and Hitchcock can work some magic with him.
Yeah. So I tweeted something about Spec earlier today. Going off on would he be a better coach if McClellan had Barzal and Beauvillier? Would he be a better coach if he had Hall and Eberle? And I hate that kind of crap. Of course he'd be a better coach. He'd be a better coach if he had the 83 Oilers. It doesn't. It's a stupid question. But what he did tweet out today, and the reason I'm bringing this up is he tweeted out two different scouts that he talked to about Puljujärvi. One guy said, one scout says he's 20 years old and he might not be ready yet, but he'll get there. And then the other said he's 20, and if he were in the NCAA, they'd line up around the block to sign him. So you know what? I think that's good. I think as a lot of us believe anyway, Puljujärvi's got a future in this league. I do think that part of the challenge was McClellan. So let's Kayle, while we've got you here, first thoughts on Hitchcock and what transpired. There's obviously a lot of folks out there that were hoping Chia would get the oust as well, but that didn't happen. Your thoughts all around on this, on what's happened today?
Well, here's the first thing that I think. If we make the playoffs this year, Chia stays. And that's going to be a double-edged sword for Oiler fans because the polls against Chiarelli are so lopsidedly, we're done with that. We're done with him. So people are choose, we want to get Chia or do we want to make the playoffs? This is Chia's gaffe on the most part. I mean, I don't think McClellan got every scrap of the team that he could have. Like you said before, if he had better personnel, would he be a better coach? Yes, every coach would be better with better personnel. It makes your job that much easier. But there are a lot of calls, like the all-lefty power play. We were scoring our goals on rushes more than we were setting up with that all-lefty power play. We didn't have that one shot, slap shot one-timer threat. We don't really have that on the point with Clefbaum. We did in 15-16. I don't know why he's not shooting it like he used to. But I think I really was hoping to see that power play. What's the Hitchcock era power play? But I mean, apparently you can grab on to McDavid, ride him down the ice, and he's not going to get a penalty called. So maybe he'll have to wait a couple of games to actually catch that. Hitchcock, he's going to be a wait and see. Everything's a wait and see. Spooner, he's still a wait and see. He's a few games deep. I think his first game was actually pretty good. He got some pretty good chances. You can definitely see the speed in his game. New coach. He's had 3 coaches in the last 5 games. So yeah, he's got some adjustments to do. So I still think the jury's out on him too. Yeah. Be interesting to see Ratty with Hitchcock because Ratty could never crack Hitchcock's lineup when he was in St. Louis. So I'm really interested to see what happens with Ratty with Hitchcock now on board too. But I like to see it. I think the next 2 games are very winnable against Anaheim and Los Angeles, both struggling clubs. So if we can carry this momentum and maybe sweep California trip, it's gonna probably change a lot of the outlooks too. And maybe Hitchcock is the one, is the savior we've been looking for. Maybe his no bullshit attitude is going to actually get everything out of these players. Because I think if you pull everything out of all the players you have on the ice for the most part, you're going to have a successful club. And I think that's what separates most hockey clubs from others. Not every hockey club is going to be full of talent, but you look at Vegas, if you get full worth ethic, you get success. So I'm hoping that's what Hitchcock is going to be able to do with this club because, like he said before, not all talent is there, but if you get the worth ethic, we might actually see some success.
Yeah, I don't. You know what? I don't disagree with that. One of the things, and I told you offline before we started tonight, disappointment in not seeing the that Team LG3 says Ratty's the only guy that didn't like the coach change. I think you're right. And to carry on with my thought there, one of the things I was disappointed in, I really wanted to see a power play because I was curious what Hitch would do with the power play and no practices. You've got to think the power play is going to change up a little bit. Hitchcock's going to have, his piece on that. I mean, it was a half a period, and then we saw his mark on this team. I can't wait till after they've had a chance to, have a couple practices. He said, about 8 or 9 games? I think, but I was disappointed tonight. I was kind of I was hoping to see a power play for any number of reasons. Maybe the fact that Pavelski rode on McDavid's back all the way down the ice, or any number of those things. But Nick the Gamer 240 says let Vivrios, I can never say his name, run the PP. I don't know. Kelly, was it you that was saying you had heard McClellan didn't let the guys really run their power play and PK? Like it was committee, but my way or the highway. Was that you that said that?
Yeah, I heard that previously, but then Gregor also kind of reiterated that today. He said that he talked to 2 players that said that Manny had nothing to do with the power play.
Yeah,
I think that's criminal. You bring a guy in to run your power play, and he does not run your power play at all, or have even a minor say.
Yeah, no, I agree. I can't agree more. I mean, and he, that was the whole big deal, right? About getting him out, and the guy with superior hockey IQ to most on the power play. You'd think we would have seen some sort of what I would consider significant change on the power play, and although we switched out, we put Eberle in there, and they sometimes had Lucic on, Lucic off. It never really changed the look and feel of it. Lucic on the 4th line. Thoughts there? Jump ball.
Well, honestly, if you can swallow his salary, that line looked great tonight, man. Did they cause some havoc? Honestly, I think Lucic is a better player this year than he was for the final half of last season. He hasn't got some puck luck, obviously. So if you can swallow that $6 million salary, and that's a 3rd effective line or 4th line, whatever they're going to, or alternate that, I'd be happy with that. You got to get what you get out of that player. I'd rather have him as an effective player of any kind than a completely useless player of any kind. So, I mean, time's only going to tell for now how much farther that can go. But as long as, Lucic can be an effective player, and I've heard a lot. I've actually met Oilers when they're drunk at the bar and talked to them, and he has the players have a lot of respect for Lucic. He's a big voice in that room. His leadership is a factor, and people forget that too, that is another aspect that Lucic brings. So, and I mean, how can we forget Lucic jumping on top and pounding Buddy there into the ice? And I think that won Lucic a lot of fans back in the Oilers fan base watching him do that.
Yeah. Just quickly, AJ Hafley is listening tonight. He is he's been a guest on the show, and if you guys don't know AJ, while he is a member of the media for one of our rivals in the Colorado Avalanche, hell of a guy. He writes and editor-in-chief of BSN Denver, and great guy. Was a good guest to have on. Anyway, his comment just now was, ain't nobody has an unhinged jaw large enough to swallow that salary. Keep in mind, AJ, that Colorado legalized pot almost over a year before we did. So, okay, I'm going to open the lines up. AJ, if you want to call in, please call in 587-907-5483. That's 587-907-LIVE. If we don't get any calls in, that's fine. We'll just continue to chat. A couple things, I definitely want to chat about. So if your thoughts, Your thoughts, Kelly, on the Lucic on the fourth line?
Well, like I said earlier, I think it became the de facto third line the way that Hitchcock was using him when I got a chance to watch, and then was that Kyra and Ratty and Marody before Hitchcock took him out of the game. They were the fourth line. They weren't hardly getting any shifts.
Yeah, I thought Kyra had a good game, though. If you had seen the rest of the game, I thought he played well. Had a couple steals and looked good. But, yeah, you're right. In the third, he did definitely.
Yeah, like Marody just doesn't have the foot speed, and it's a bit overwhelming playing the Sharks. But he'll make it eventually. He just needs to improve his foot speed a little bit, and then it'll be good. As far as I've never really had a problem with Lucic wasn't scoring as long as he's contributing some way in the game in a positive manner, right? So, that line was banging all night. It was causing all sorts of havoc, and San Jose didn't really know what to do with it. So I like it. I dig that. If that's the way that Hitchcock wants to use Lucic, then that's how it's going to go. And unless Lucic demands a trade out of there, that's how he's going to play.
So I see we've got at Locating Oil joined the Periscope feed, and he's been a big proponent of letting go of Chiarelli. Guys, your thoughts on this team keeping Chia around for now? I'll let you know my personal opinion is, love or hate Chia, the immediate impact was on coaching, and I think that Chiarelli has till the end of the season. I don't think there's any doubt in that. Kayle, your thoughts?
Well, I think Chiarelli is the big reason this team isn't a contender. I'm pretty sure we've dived over why that is the case probably a million times. Like I said, if we make the playoffs this year, Chiarelli will keep his job, as criminal as that will be. The thing is going forward, do you still want Chiarelli at the helm? We've got some good moves out of Chiarelli, don't get me wrong. Like Chiasen, 7 goals at $850K. If he scores 15 to 20 somehow this year, that's crazy. That's a crazy bargain. It's as good as when you brought Maroon over. Maroon scored 27, and Anaheim's still paying his salary. Like, Chiarelli has made some good moves, but when he screws up huge. And so that's what's scary. And the thing that drove me to be absolutely done with Chiarelli is when it leaked that he was about to trade Hall for Cody Ceci straight across. How do you keep an NHL GM job when you're going to trade a top left wing in the league for a maybe 3-4? He wasn't even an established 3-4 in Ottawa yet. He was still on potential. I was blown away by that. I was like, how does this man still have a job? And how he still has a job today was still, blowing my mind. And maybe you just think, well, there's really not much we can change taking Chiarelli out right now, so wait to see the end of the season. I don't know. I've never been in upper hockey management to know how they make those decisions, but I also don't think Hitchcock was a Chiarelli hire either. I think that was a Cates hire. I don't think Chiarelli had any say in that. I think that's a Cates, because Hitchcock has nothing to lose. He's only here till the end of the season. He's going to come here, be a new set of eyes, and he's going to start reporting to the top of what he noticed. So that's my suspicion. But ultimately, I think the Oilers are going to be better off the sooner Chiarelli is gone.
All right, and your thoughts, Kelly, on that? By the way, hey, you got a new fan, Kayle. Locating Oil. This guy is making too much sense, he says.
I appreciate that, man. I appreciate
that. and if you go up the chat there a little bit, he called me a chia pet. So I always enjoy watching his tweets. He says what he feels anyway. So Kelly, your thoughts?
From what I've gleaned of the situation, that I don't think that Chiarelli's going to have much say in much going on for the rest of the season. I think that whatever happened when Cates came to town there and they had their meeting, I think there was a decision made that he'll stay as GM, and but they're going to give more responsibility to Keith Gretzky, and he's going to get some more or less GMing experience, if you will. And I don't believe that the playoffs would save Chiarelli from getting fired at the end of the season, unless they win the cup. like, I don't realistically see that as a scenario that could happen. Yeah, I agree with Kayle in that Nicholson probably had his hands on that hire a little more than Chiarelli. And I never got why Chiarelli was so loyal to McClellan, because McClellan threw it back in his face so much. Right? Like, okay, we're going to move your assistants out. We're going to bring in these new guys. And then McClellan doesn't use the guy he brought in to improve the power play. Okay, so that's great. So now I'm going to bring in some wingers, and then you're not going to use them. And, we have Pugliarvi Yamamoto, but you can't be bothered working with younger players. So, you force my hand now. I have to send them down, or are you just making all of us look bad? So I never really got that. They were butting heads for so long. But for some reason, Chiarelli never wanted to let him go. So that's why I believe that the call to hire Hitchcock came from above. And if that's the case, then yeah, Chiarelli is kind of gone for. So what are you gonna do?
Yeah, I think you're probably both right to some extent. I think if the Oilers make the playoffs though, and they go, maybe past, if they can make it past the first round, I'm not sure this is the squad to do that, but in fact, I don't think it is. But if they can, then he's safe. I do think, in some regard, and the thing that mattered to me most, and we can't. You can call me whatever you want, but there's two things. Chiarelli's done right, and one is drafting. I think he's drafted and filled the prospect system up really well, and he's made some good small trades. But, as everybody says, the big trades are a disaster, and probably line up with some of the worst trades in Oilers history. And he also, somebody mentioned it earlier. They have, they've seemed to overpay. I don't know if that's Chiarelli's fault. I don't want to let him off on that, but I've always thought it's a little bit harder in Edmonton to get players to come and play for less money, given the climate and northern city, the travel that comes along with it, the fan base. As we're passionate, fickle but passionate fans, and so I don't know if the overpay is something that can be avoided. It seems every GM is overpaid. So that's just the way it is. But I do think he's, you guys are probably right. He's likely gone at the end of the season. I'm not upset about that. I feel like the big thing to me was that McClellan didn't get the best out of the players. I keep saying that. I just think this is a roster that is better than they were playing. It doesn't mean it's a Stanley Cup final roster. It's just better than they've been playing. And tonight, proved it. I think they played well tonight. In the after the first period, I thought they were hard on the puck, and it just. If Hitchcock can get this out of them 75-80% of the time, we have got a playoff team in what's going to be an easy division. A win tonight after we're 4-6 in the last 10, and we're 1 point out of a playoff spot. It's crazy. It's awesome. It's awesome, but it's crazy. So it's this is the year. Like, we have to capitalize on a roster that has some glaring holes, and make the playoffs. But Vancouver's on. If we think we're on a bad stretch, Vancouver is sort of showing their stripes, which I'm surprised they lasted as long as they did, to be fair. But that Pettersson was a pretty exciting guy to watch. Guys, what do you think? Maybe Kelly, start with you. You think with McClellan out and Hitch in. You think this team has a legit shot at making the playoffs? I was tweeting with Sander at the Hockey Writers today. Early in the season, he said this team wasn't going to be in the playoffs. I'm curious. Does the coaching change that? Did you always think they're going to be in the playoffs? What's your thoughts there?
I thought they had when I did my predictions at the beginning of the season, I thought they had a really good chance of making the playoffs this year. And even when they had a cold start, and then they had a hot run after that, and like, oh wow, things are looking really good. And then the wheels fell off there, and it kind of got my hopes down a little bit. But when a team has the right attitude, it can do amazing things. And if Hitchcock is the guy that can instill the right attitude in those players, that that they believe in themselves and they'll play for each other instead of with each other, that the team can go farther than maybe even they perceive themselves. So that's kind of my thoughts, brief on that.
Kayle, your thoughts?
I honestly had no idea what we could do. We're a team against the cap with growing holes in our lineup. We pretty much everything comes internal at this point. So we saw what relying on internal did to us last year. It's hard to say what it would do to us this year. All in all, if I think if Hitch can get everyone to buy into a nice big system of some kind where everybody's on the same page, because I don't think everybody was on McClellan's page, and I never really knew what McClellan's page was to begin with. But if you get that team cohesion, like I said, I think Vegas is the biggest example of what team cohesion can actually do for you. So if we can establish that, which time will tell, then I think, we definitely are a playoff team. Are we a contender? Probably not. But, if we get one round or two of playoffs again, give us another year to get some development from some of our guys down in the AHL, because they've been doing very well. So we have some depth coming from within that can make an impact next year. Then maybe that could start pushing us more into the contender road.
Yeah, I think I think that's accurate. I think we all. I mean, especially after last season and seeing what Vegas put together. But we talk about Vegas as being sort of a Cinderella season. They still had a good team. They put it together right. Some of those guys overperformed, obviously, but it wasn't. I wouldn't say it was a total Cinderella season. We do have a caller dialing in. The screen failed on it, so I don't know what they're calling about, which scares the crap out of me. But that's the joy of going live. So I'm gonna add them in. Not sure who it is. It might be Mega Mike. Just hold on. Let's see. Is that you, Mary?
This is not Mega Mike.
It's not. All right. Who do we got?
This is your friend Tangerine from Twitter.
Hey, Tangerine. Welcome to this is your first time calling in on Oilers Live. What's your thoughts on the game tonight?
I'm not going to lie. I was in a meeting until close to 10 o'clock, and I've been at my friend's house since then, obviously having a couple goody goods. I was actually pretty impressed because I've been following on Twitter and on the NHL app. I expected them to win tonight, and I knew it was a really big deal with the whole firing of McLean and Hitchcock coming in. So, I wasn't surprised, but that's how it goes.
Well, it's if you had a chance to watch the game, you would have seen an Oilers team that looked a little bit energized in the second and third period. Heavy forecheck led to a lot of turnovers. I thought they looked really good and definitely played a different game. Post game, if anybody watched of course, they were hard on McDavid and everybody on what was it like to play for Hitchcock. And I thought McDavid's comments were interesting. He said took him some time to get used to a new voice behind there because he's only always had McClellan back there in his NHL career. Kayle, any thoughts there?
I don't know. It'd be quite interesting, I think. With all the comments, I don't know. I think to me it's just too early to really gauge anything. Everything is pointing towards positive, but everything that we've all witnessed as Oilers fans always kind of has that negative Nancy in the back of my brain.
Yeah.
But I dream of success for this team all the time. I will be laying in bed thinking, oh, what if we do a California sweep, right? Or going into the weekend with the Flames and the Vegas game, I was like, oh, we could totally win those 2 games and then be tied with San Jose at 20 games played in points. Like, I'm always dreaming of the success, and then I always get let down. So that always kind of, sits in the back of my brain. But I honestly think that if there is a coach that's going to be able to make the impact that we need, it will be Hitchcock, and at least in the short term. We don't have any long-term plans right now, which is kind of scary. I think for people, we don't know who our coach or our GM is going to be, and we're in year 4 of McDavid, and against the cap.
Yeah.
So
Tangerine,
slight pessimism into optimism.
Tangerine, your thoughts on is this team making the playoffs this year?
You know what? I'm not completely negative about it because there's this really big part of me that has my hopes and my dreams. I think it could happen, but I'm also scared at where we stand right now. But I think it's possible.
All right.
But I'm scared. I tell you, I'm scared.
All right. Well, thanks for calling in, Tangerine. I know we're going to see you at the Oilerslive Cup, right? December 9th. Is that right?
Yes, I'm going to be there with my freaking bells on, and I'm really excited for the Battle of Alberta.
Yeah, you bet. That's
going to be. I don't know how I'm going to survive the after party after the game, and then going to the actual game and trying to survive the whole night. But it's doable.
All right. Well, I'm looking forward to meeting you. Make sure you put out Team Heavy Hockey signage for the game.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, don't let that Mega Thread Mike guy steer you otherwise. Have a great night. I'm going to continue on here with
thank you.
Kelly and Kayle. Thanks so much for calling in.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'll see you around.
You bet. All right, so that was Tangerine calling in just while I mentioned it because I know she's coming. She's registered to be at the Oilerslive Cup, which is December 9th. Kayle, I didn't talk to you about it, but it's December 9th. It's 2 p.m. to 3:30 p.m. It's going to be at the Downtown Community Arena in Edmonton, which is attached to Rogers. And it's Team Heavy Hockey, which is the name of the reported podcast that I do, and against Team Mega Thread, which is Mike Dursa. If you're not involved in the Mega Thread and don't know how, just reach out to at Mike Dursa on Twitter, and he'll get you on there. Get ready for a notification explosion. So we're going to play, I'd say best on best, but it's hardly that. But it's going to be 2 teams out there, and we're going to play a game. We got lots of fans coming. Then after that, we're going to hit the hat on Jasper for a little after party. And then later that evening, because it is December 9th, is the second round of the Battle of Alberta, and hopefully a new team. Let's talk. I haven't done a podcast since... at Voosly Ruzi, or no, at Locating Oil says that's one of the spam accounts in there. At Locating Oil says throw a Mega Thread jersey on the ice. I should give. I've got an extra. I'm gonna get that one. Thanks for that, Luke. Anyway, what is it good? Oh, yeah, I haven't done a pod since the Battle of Alberta game. Kelly, I haven't talked to you either about that. Your thoughts on that game? It's my opinion that was the game that displayed Todd McClellan's lack of ability with this team. Your thoughts on the game? Was it there for us to win, or was that third period always going to be that third period?
That's a good question. It was a really good hockey game. I was really enjoying the first 40 minutes of that. I didn't have any problem really with like what Tkachuk was doing because the Oilers were giving it back to him. I wish they would have given it to Gaudreau or Monahan a little more than they did. But that collapse is just something we've seen a few too many times before, and it was really disheartening to see that in the Battle of Alberta. The third period, they gave Lucic a chance to show what he has, and he kind of fell flat on his face with the two best players on the team as his line mates, and that kind of sucks for him. But sometimes we need a good slap in the face back to reality, right? And, this is his career trajectory is changing a little bit, and he can't play those with those skilled players so much anymore. But yeah, Calgary kind of they taught Todd McClellan a pretty good lesson, and I'm not sure why a coach with that kind of experience would have changed things unless he was just saying to the players like, fine, is this how you want it, like then fine, this is how we're going to do it, and we'll see how it works out in the end.
Yeah. I mean, I think the star of that game, and he didn't get a third star, one of the 3 stars was Tkachuk, no doubt. He in my mind, he unpackaged McClellan and totally neutered our top line. I was at the game, and of course, as Oilers fans, and we're about a third of the arena. It was loud, it was good, it was a lot of fun, and then you put Lucic on in a 1-goal game with your top line, and it's just I don't get it. I don't get it. Your thoughts, Kayle, on that game? I mean, to me it was just it was exactly everything I expected from McClellan.
That game, I mean, just overall, that was Battle of Alberta hands down. Third period was shitty for Oiler fans, but Tkachuk got away with a lot, in my opinion. There's some penalties that should have been called on him. He walked away scot-free. He got in the heads. I could see pinning Lucic, but coming when you're trying to tie the game and you're leaving him there I was swearing at my phone. I was actually out for the night, and I was watching the game on my phone as I was out, and I was actually started swearing at my phone, and people were looking at me like I'm crazy. I'm like, why is Lucic still out there? Like, Draisaitl and McDavid aren't weaklings. Draisaitl especially. That guy can throw his weight around. I think we've all seen him do it.
Yeah,
I saw him dump Tkachuk like I think 5 times that game.
Yeah.
So like there's really not much need to keep Lucic up on there, and then maybe at least put Cassian up on there, who's got some speed. You know what I mean? And he's got some skill still. So that was those are those little things that McClellan has done where I'm not that sad to see him go. Some of those weird decisions that he makes that just makes me scratch my head. And when I heard that he does not pay attention to hockey analytics whatsoever, that was a very big negative for me, because I think analytics and eye tests both have their place in the game. But, if you looked at, Puljujärvi's analytics with McDavid are overwhelmingly in favor. But he also had to play scared. He makes a gaffe, he sits on the bench. You can't do that with a young player, who's trying to thrive in an offensive guy that Puljujärvi is. I think Puljujärvi is going to be an incredible NHL player. He's a 30-40 goal scorer. I would put money on that. He's getting a little bit of flack because the other people in his draft class are already excelling, but Puljujarvi is definitely going to get there. The time in the A, I think, is going to be very important for him. At least 10 to 15 games. I'd like to see him play the whole year there, but give him 10 to 15 games to get that mojo back at least. Bring him up here, and then maybe see what Hitchcock can do with him.
So before we go further, how much money exactly would you put on it? I do think he'll be a 20 to 30 goal scorer. I'm not sure we're going to see 30 out of Puljujarvi, but we might. Certainly.
I mean, I don't know, man. If you watch him get off the shot that he has, he just has to learn to get to those spots to use it. I mean, I don't know. I honestly think 30. I think 40 would be like the season where everything goes in for you. That'd be like one of those seasons where if you kind of look at Jonathan Taves, we'll use Jonathan Taves. Jonathan Taves had that 78-point season. That's just the season where everything was working for him. So that's like Puljujarvi's like breakout big season. But I think he's going to be a 25, 30 goal winger. As long as we can handle him properly, and he's only 20 years old. Timo Meier on the Sharks actually is a pretty good example of kid, about 22, figuring out the game, got the strength. So patience with Puljujarvi. We need the patience.
Yeah.
And that I think that's what a lot of I think the losing kind of expedites the impatience. But if we're patient with him, 100%, I think he's going to be what we want.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I mean, we've everybody knows this franchise has for years lacked patience. In really developing our prospects. AJ Hafley, Kelly has had a different feeling on Puljujarvi's game tonight than you did. He watched it. AJ, of course, is with BSN Denver, so he watched the Eagles tonight as well. Thought that he looked a little bit lost. So I guess tale of two viewers. But
the game was a little bit crowded, right? Colorado was plugging things up, not like they did last time, and that made it harder for Puljujarvi just to pick up the puck in his own zone and skate it through the neutral zone like he was the other night. But when he got it in the offensive zone, he was stick handling around guys and using his body and his body weight to gain position and whatnot. He had 2 or 3 good chances in that game. So I don't think he looked lost at all, to be honest. The one thing I would say is that his shot selection is still baffling. He takes those wristers from like just inside the blue line, if the defenseman stands up on him a little bit. But yeah, there are a couple times when they're like passing it around, they overpassed it and things like that. It's really irritating. But it happens. So he was far from lost. He was the best player in that game, apart from like maybe Gambardella getting his 2 goals.
Yeah, I need to watch a few more Condors games to really know and understand what the players are doing out there. I mean, I guess, part of the thing about having Woodcroft go down to the AHL was, him and McClellan have worked together for so long that, they'd have the same philosophy and move guys up and they could play the same system. I'm curious how that works now that McClellan's gone. We'll see what happens there. I definitely need to watch these guys. I mean, we've got, I've heard Bear hasn't been playing as well. He was injured for a bit, I understand. Jones, I've heard, looked pretty decent, but have you, Kelly, you've been watching a number of games or just the one?
I watched the last 3 because I signed up right when Yamamoto and Puljujarvi got sent down.
Yeah.
So I don't see many comparisons between the way that Woodcroft is coaching that team and McClellan coaches the NHL team. To be honest, it's almost like pretty opposite, where like the transition game is better for the Condors. They move the puck a little bit better. They carry it through the neutral zone and enter the offensive zone with the puck way more often, and not just one guy on the team. Right? They have other options that can do that. They are tenacious on the puck with their more like the grinders and whatnot. Woodcroft puts Puljujarvi on the left wall on the power play, and he's the go-to guy on that with the man advantage, right? So McLellan's gone. I don't think it's going to have any effect. If this is the way that Woodcroft is going to coach that team, then that's good. He's letting the kids play. He's letting them be creative, letting them make mistakes, and he's not grilling them for it. It's a much better environment for support and development, in my opinion. And I've really enjoyed watching the AHL games because they're really unpredictable. There's lots of mistakes.
Yeah.
And if you're a good forechecker and you've got speed and good stick checking and whatnot, like, you're pretty effective at that level. Like Mark Messier's nephew, Luke Esposito, he's really entertaining. He's fast and he hits and he's really aggressive. He's got a little bit of stick handling skill, but that level is actually a little. I found it more entertaining than watching the Oilers recently, or any NHL for that matter, because the NHL, it's almost like watching football. It's set plays. It's you kind of can predict where the puck's gonna go and whatnot, and that it's fun because they're the best hockey players in the world, but it's not quite as exciting as a game full of mistakes, almost like junior hockey. Things are going back and forth and it's physical. Guys are hitting each other. There's fights. It's I've really liked watching the AHL since I signed up for that package.
Yeah. Kayle, you watch any of the Condors games? You get a chance?
Unfortunately, I do not get a chance to watch them. I follow tweets, people that tweet out the how the game's going. I look at the scores. I pay attention, that kind of stuff. Whether this game sucks 3 hours of your day, of your night, as an adult, it's hard to juggle a lot of hockey watching, but I definitely follow the team.
No adults here, by the way.
Yeah, I've caught I think maybe 3 or 4 Condors games in the last couple of years. But I do follow the league, and I think it's to see how guys are doing. It's important. They're a good team this year down there. A lot of things are going right for them, so it might be more pressing for people. Maybe catch them even more. If you got a nice winning team down there, that everyone wants to watch fun hockey. So
yeah, I think you put guys like Puljujarvi and Yamamoto down, and whether or not if you watched the game and you thought they played well, or you thought they were lost tonight, that's still some skill that we haven't had in recent years. I mean, you got Benson down there, who we haven't talked about. We've got Hebig, who I think is he's a player. Malone, who every year seems to put up some numbers in the AHL, and then of course some defensemen that I think like Jones and Bear and Legason. This is good. We've got a reason to be excited. For a change, and as these guys grow and maybe they get a little bit older, develop a little bit, we might just be able to field a roster. I think that you need, year after year. Brayley Brooks says hockey is adulting. I'm not sure that's true. She's never played with me. I think. It's nice to see us having some prospects. I'm going to take a second again and say if you want to call in, I don't know how much longer I'm going to go tonight, maybe another 10, 15 minutes, but we've got room for people to give a call in at 587-907-5483. The other thing I want to say is if you want to, I play in a couple of tournaments every year, as everybody generally knows me, and I play the Hockey Helps the Homeless tournament. I play in Calgary and I play in Vancouver. The Vancouver tournament is this Friday. I've got Stefan Richer on my team. So for you Habs fans, which I know you're not listening, that's who's on my team. But if you feel the need to donate, you can go to tournament.hhtth.com/go-to/OilersLive-YVR. That money goes to help the homeless in Vancouver, of which there's 3,600 of them on any given night. I am on the committee in Calgary for Hockey Helps the Homeless, and I can tell you it is a very worthy cause. So if you feel like doing something good, of course, you can also donate to the Oilers Live Cup. Not to the Oilers Live Cup, rather, but to Chinook Autism. We've got at Radistic is on Periscope right now. He is an autistic parent based in Lethbridge. He was also the first overall draft in generational talent of the Oilers Live Cup, and in honor of the good things that he does, we're going to take Chinook Autism as our charity of choice, and 100% of all donations to the Oilers Live Cup are going to go to Chinook Autism. So every dollar for dollar, no admin fees, no anything. And if you tune into my Twitter feed every day, I've been putting in a little awareness on autism, which I've learned a lot just from doing this. But anyway, my hat's off to Radistic, who is inspiration to those of us that see other parents every day. What he does and seems to always have a smile and everything. It's great. Anyway, so you can call in 587-907-5483. We're going to stay on for probably another 10 more minutes if Kayle and Kelly, you guys are still good with that. And then we'll call it a night. It was a late one. Up next is Anaheim at 2 p.m. We're talking about being adults. A lot of us work. I'm going to be playing hockey actually in Vancouver, 2 p.m. on Friday. You guys going to be watching the game?
I'll be streaming it at work. Luckily, I have one of the big bosses is pretty big Oiler fan, so he allows me to stream it while I'm at work.
Awesome. Kelly, you going to get a chance? Well, what time is that there? So if you didn't know, Kayle, Kelly's on the other end of the world. But...
Yeah, there's no way in hell I'm getting up at 5 a.m. to watch the Oilers. That's a bunch of bullshit, man.
no commitment whatsoever. Brayley Brooks, there's too many matinee games. It does bug me a little bit that, it's not a holiday for us. For them to put a Canadian team, a matinee game on a Friday, it drives me a little bit insane.
We've had a really weird scheduling this year, no doubt about it.
Yeah. I thought, though, initially I saw some graphic going around that said the Oilers had the easiest schedule for the season. I assume they didn't mean the first 10, 15 games. But anybody else see that?
I seen that. I seen that they were top heavy the first 30 games, and then we get to coast from there. It gets a lot easier. I have to look closely at it again. I see it do get a little bit easier. I don't know if it'd be the easiest schedule in the league. I don't really want to compare it to the 30 other teams, but it does get a little bit easier, thankfully, from what I noticed.
Yeah. So no 5 a.m. for you, Kelly.
Yeah, no, but that should be a decent game. There's enough animosity between the Oilers and the Ducks that there should be some interesting moments in that game. And Edmonton sometimes in the past has played to the level of their competitor, right? And Anaheim's not having the greatest go. It's not horrid by any means. They might have the best goalie in the league this year. And if he stays hot, then that's going to be real tough for the Oilers to deal with. But they're going through some injury issues on the back end, and it's Ducks and Oilers. It's going to be good.
Yeah.
Oh, we know we're definitely gonna get a lot of McDavid infractions with no calls. We're all already ready for that. I hope.
Oh yeah, don't forget everyone's got to go out and get their Fuck Kessler shirt.
Yeah, I've already got one, as you know, and
We've got other-
I'm curious how that's going to go over in Vancouver when I'm there. But I'll wear it anyway. I'll wear it anyway.
Yeah,
'Cause,
well, you're a big enough guy. Nothing's gonna happen to you there.
they're not going to bug me. No. By the way, in the this is a quick highlight, and this is not Oilers related, but I in my last Hockey Helps the Homeless tournament, I stole the puck from Mike Commodore. It was probably the only time I've ever stolen the puck from an NHLer. But I've played against these guys every year. Cliff Ronning has made me look stupid on a number of occasions, and I'm not a bad D man, but God, that guy he's still fast. Yeah. Anyway, I swear one time I was left tying my skates after he was done.
Did you look like a Larson on that other goal there?
I looked a little bit like Couture on Larson there. Yeah. I thought, what's your thoughts on Larson's game tonight? I didn't think he played that great. I thought, that was just one part.
Took bad. Yeah, he took a bad penalty. He got beat pretty hard by Couture there. A couple times actually Clefbaum bailed him out too, in my opinion. Hopefully he turns that around for next game, because we all know Larson's actually a really good steady D-man. I don't expect his play to slide like that too often, so we'll see what happens in the next game. But I mean, by then, Hitchcock's gonna have some time with the team, so he's probably gonna have noticed that and maybe have some fixes available. So
yeah. And Kelly, I don't imagine you watched enough of the game to get a real feel for how Larson played.
I've seen that goal.
Yeah.
But I mean, they replayed it enough. But he came across the blue line, turned around, and wanted to step up on him, and it was a bad choice. And it happens from time to time with defensemen like Larson. But for the most part, Larson's been solid this year, real good, real tough. And Hitchcock's going to love him, right? You remember all those years he had Darian Hatcher?
Oh,
Jesus, man. He'll like Larson, and he'll like Nurse.
So Glenn
him and Clefbaum both, I think, have been pretty underrated by a lot of Edmonton fans this year. They have actually been a really good combo.
Glenn Moore brought up a good point on that Larson
jade.
goal, by the way, which is, or the Larson goal, the Couture goal. But that Clefbaum left Larson out to dry by not dumping that puck in deep and then going off for the change. I think that's accurate. I still think, that's a defensive move that Larson needs to get. It wasn't anything fancy. It was a quick inside out, and Larson didn't play the angle very well. But no doubt. I didn't think Glenn says Clefbaum struggled. What's your thoughts? I thought actually Clefbaum had a decent game. Locating Oil says Larson didn't take a penalty. I thought he did too.
I'm pretty sure he did. I'm checking that right now, actually, to see if he got those minutes. I could have sworn he did.
Geez, doing these live broadcasts, it's like people are fact-checking me as I go. I can only imagine your like Stauffer and your notifications probably in text messages the guy gets probably just every time you notice if you listen to Oilers Now, anytime he says anything, he'll moments later say, you can stop texting me now.
You know what? I guess, he didn't take. I was mistaken a Clefbaum penalty. They kind of got the same bangy orange hair going on there. I'm mistaken that.
Clefbaum did have that. Glenn's also calling it out. Yeah, Clefbaum did have that great deflection that hit the crossbar tonight. That was, oh man, I just about fell on the floor. Actually, it's funny because I didn't start seeing the "Oh my God, Clefbaum, what did you do?" tweets until it went into commercial break, and I thought, what did I miss? But they were just late on that deflection. But that was awful. Okay, Glenn, you went this round. Clefbaum did have a bit of an off game in certain areas, but he did make a couple nice plays. There was that one where he Tulkin's Cliffy asked, or no, who asked, did the Oilers get a power play? Rudistic asked. No, they didn't get a power play. I'm trying to also on the chat. I'm trying to weed out the spam.
All those porn bots are pretty entertaining. I'm not gonna lie.
yeah. They just repeat what you say and then put a couple of hearts beside it.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, we got. I'm gonna say 5 more minutes. Kelly, I'm gonna give Kayle the last word tonight as being new on the show, and then so Kelly, I'll let you say some last thoughts. I'll go, and then we'll finish off with Kayle before we call it a night.
Yeah, sure. Well, it was I like hockey when it's entertaining. I like it when the Oilers are scoring goals and when they're making an effort. And the 2 games previous to this, we've seen instances where they quit, and that pisses me off. I don't want to put my money towards that kind of effort. But tonight they bounce back. They show a little more heart. They come back and win the game on probably the most screwed up OT goal I've seen in a long time. And we got Anaheim coming up, and we got LA coming up, and I think they're 2 winnable games. As for the rest of the season, it's going to be interesting to see how Hitchcock deals with some of the personalities in the locker room. But I feel good about the hire, and I think it's gonna be a real nice season to put it plainly, and we'll see what happens around trade deadline and see how much Gretzky or Chiarelli tinker with the roster. I feel good right now. So
yeah. Good. So I'll give my last thoughts, and then Kayle, you get the honor of closing us out tonight. So tonight it was, as you said, it's great. It's great when the Oilers put in, full game's worth of effort. I thought they came out. That first period was a little bit off. At first I thought they came out really hard in the first 5 minutes, and then the second half of the period, whether it was nerves or whether it was, as Hitch said, not knowing the players' names and maybe just adjusting to the Oilers. They looked awful in the second half of the first period, but then got it together for the rest of the game. Actually, there was really no point in this game, which, really makes me feel good about this team, where I didn't think it was possible that they could come back. Nuge, nice shot, nice shorty. That was good to see. Good to see Brodziak get an assist on that as well. So, secondary scoring. I thought guys came to play tonight, and happy to see. I'm surprised we've never seen Lucic on the 4th line. At least I don't remember seeing him on the 4th line. So I was happy to see that. I think it's time to just put that contract behind us and put him where he needs to be on this team. And he's a very capable, maybe sometimes 3rd line, as tonight, if the 3rd line's being benched, and get that 4th line rolling. Because as long as guys are creating opportunities on that 4th line, I think that's great. Another last thought that I want to say to those that listen to the podcast or stream in live. Thanks so much for listening. We've I've had some great guests on the show, but Kayle made me remember something. That's when I started this podcast last year, it was always intended to be about the fans of the Oilers and getting fans on the show more often. So, the call-in allows me to do that. Thanks for calling in, Tangerine. But you guys, those of you that are that listen to the podcast or listen live or however you tune in, if you want to be a guest on the show, that's what this is for. It's open it up. I truly think that we've got we don't have fickle fans. We've got great and passionate fans, and I love the both sides. Locating Oil, he's been listening all day, and he's always, as I say, he always says what's on his mind. Dirtbag Donnie, who's done his own podcasts on here, who a lot of people don't always get along with. He says what's on his mind, but they're all passionate Oilers fans, and I'm just happy to have you guys listen, and I want you on the show, whether it's the recorded Heavy Hockey podcast or this one where we do live and call in. Join in. Kayle, finish us off tonight. I just want to say before you do, thanks so much for joining me tonight. But you get the last word tonight. I've never given anybody else the last word before, so make it count.
I really appreciate that, man. All right. Well, first thing I want to bring up is tomorrow Anaheim game is actually pretty important for us to win. We are tied in points with the game in hand. It's a pretty decent dagger if you take those 2 points and put yourself, those 4-point games. So I'd definitely like to see at least a win there. I really want to point out is something I see all the time is that Draisaitl is overpaid. I just want to point out right now that McDavid is on pace for 120 points, Draisaitl is on pace for 100 points, and Nuge is on pace for 82. And if that goes even 10 points down either way, that's a very successful thing. The whole Draisaitl has to drive his own line, I think, is kind of a really hokey sentiment thrown around a lot. I think there are like 3 or 4 players in the league where you can put a 10 to 15 goal winger, and that guy's going to turn him into a 20 goal, 25 goal scorer. That's a very, very special skill set. So to throw Draisaitl on the second line, give him some garbage for wingers, and expect him to turn him into top 6 wingers, I think is kind of ridiculous. I think Draisaitl's contract is going to be a bargain in the next 2 to 3 years if he's able to keep playing at this level with or without McDavid. I think to be silly to pull him off McDavid's line right now because those two just got it. Those two know how to play together. So maybe it's not so much trying to get Draisaitl wingers as get Nuge wingers. And, Draisaitl's sitting, I think, 8th in the league in scoring right now. I think he was 7th when we signed him to the $8.5 million deal. So I think that contract is a good contract for him. I think people are kind of comparing him to a couple of the other contracts like Scheifele. Pretty sure Scheifele signed his contract at like a 61-point season and has played up since then. So, Draisaitl signed his contract at 6th in the league in scoring, 77 points. So I just like to point that out. That's something that bugs me all the time. I see it everywhere. I see it in the Facebook group I'm an admin in. I see it on TSN comments. I see it on Twitter. Draisaitl is not overpaid in my opinion. I want to drive that home. Also, I'm honestly optimistic about Hitchcock. I always have the wait-and-see mentality. I can't help it. But I think if there's going to be a coach that takes this team to another level, it's going to be Hitchcock. And I've always actually kind of thought that Hitchcock would always be actually a good fit for the Oilers. I think since about 2010. I was like, that's the kind of the coach the Oilers could really use. So, weird to pull him out of retirement and have him now. Didn't expect it. Pretty happy to see where it's going to go from here. So I guess it's all up in Oilers. And thanks a lot for having me on the show. I'd definitely like to jump on another time. I'm definitely going to show up to the Oilerslive Cup and give some support.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, guys. Have a great night.
You too, man. Thanks.
All right.